An NFL insider just gave us a major injury update, which proves that he is finally ready to return. If you don't know who I'm talking about one of the Dallas Cowboys' best defenders on that side of the football. We got to break it all down. And if you forgot who he was, we're going to go after the things that made him great, talking about his pros coming out of the draft and exactly what we can expect with the return of this linebacker. What's up, guys? I'm Matt Long. Welcome to Cowboys Football 365. If you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, please hit that subscribe button. But getting into the news for today, coming from ESPN insider Adam Schefter, ahead of Monday night's game versus the Raiders, the Cowboys listed linebacker Demarvion Overshown as a full participant in today's practice. Well, it's about time we got Demarvion Overshown back. The early pick from the 2024 NFL draft had a very, very good start to his career, then tore his ACL, absolutely ripped up his knee. But now Demarvion Overshown is making the final preparations to finally debut for the Dallas Cowboys in the year 2025. Looking at his stats from last season in 2024, he had 56 solo tackles, 5 sacks, a forced fumble, and an interception, proving that he does what this Dallas Cowboy defense very, very desperately needs. He forces turnovers. We've needed Demarvion Overshown back for a long time, and I'm so happy that we finally have him back. Talking about what he does very, very well. Looking at his scouting report coming out of the draft from Bleacher Report, Demarvion Overshown has good acceleration that allows him to click and close on short routes. So in zone coverage, linebacker drops back, has to use his eyes, identify what routes are coming into his area, identify what either the route is or what the route concept is that he is facing, and then he is quick to close on those routes. If you watch Demarvion Overshown, he's a very, very twitchy athlete. Some of that might not be fully back in his first couple games because when you get an ACL tear, your body, it shouldn't be fully back. If you are fully back in your first game, that just means you are, not human. That is not normal. So we can expect Demarvion Overshown to be just a little bit slower as he works his way back into being fully healthy from this injury. The NFL speed, it is different from practice speed, and he only started practicing today. Also has good hand-eye coordination to get past breakups. Not only does good hand-eye coordination get you past breakups in the NFL, it gets you interceptions, which is what this defense needs. We need turnovers more so than other defenses because the Cowboys defense is not good. That is not a secret. The defense is really, really bad. But we can still be a bad defense and have good defensive games if we can give up over 300 yards on the ground, or not on the ground, but for the game. If we force 2 turnovers and Dak Prescott and the offense don't turn the ball over at all, and we're able to win the turnover battle by 2 or 3 turnovers, we are going to win those football games, and everyone is going to look at the defense that gave up a ton of yards and say, you guys won us that football game. We got to force turnovers. I like the additions of Logan Wilson, Quinnen Williams, and now Demarvion Overshown and Trevon Revel Jr. getting back, but they are not going to turn the second worst defense in the NFL into a good defense. But what we can do is increase the turnovers that we force as a defense and make it so the defense can make some game-altering plays that allow Dak Prescott, Ceedee Lamb, George Pickens, and Javonte Williams to make a difference, to continue to make a difference offensively and win us some football games here down the stretch. After the Las Vegas Raiders, we got some really tough games coming up. It's the Chiefs, it's the Eagles, real tough teams, even though the Eagles aren't as tough as their record would suggest, but we got to make sure we are forcing turnovers. That is has to be the number one priority for this defense, because if there was a quick fix that could solve this defense's problems overnight, they would have already pulled that trigger. They would have already pressed that red button, would have already had those problems solved. It's not possible, but what we can do is be opportunistic and try as hard as we can to force turnovers, and Demarvion Overshown is going to be a huge deal when it comes to the turnovers force category. Now, getting into his next point, against the run, he plays at a depth where he can avoid the trash and still come downhill and be in a position to make tackles near the line of scrimmage. Now, they're referring to the trash as just the defensive linemen and offensive linemen getting all just mashed together. You would imagine there's going to be a little bit of push and, guys tripping over each other and, just ugly stuff. Demarvion Overshown is fast enough and athletic enough where he can sit back and still get up on the football when he sees the running back coming and knows that it's time to break. The running back's going to get the handoff and figure out what hole he wants to go through. But while he's figuring out which hole he wants to run through, there are going to be bodies flying everywhere. It's going to be tough. Demarvion Overshown has to make sure, and he can make sure, that he's not getting trapped and stuck with the other players. He's going to stay back at a safe distance and then attack the football as soon as the running back chooses his hole. And also, the thing that we're not saying here, he's going to make sure he takes care of his responsibility on defense first. He's going to stay gap aligned. He's going to take care of his gap first and then make a play. This is a very athletic player who's a game changer in the run game, so he can take care of other players' gaps, not just his own. Next, his speed gives him impressive sideline-to-sideline range against the run, and he takes good angles in pursuit, keeping the ball carrier on his inside shoulder. Now, we've already talked about at length the athleticism that Demarvion Overshown brings to the table. Hopefully it's all there. Hopefully he's 90%. If he's anything higher than that, that would be crazy. But most likely he's going to be somewhere in that 85% range. He's not going to be full speed back in his first game, but we are going to need very good run defense. Ashton Jeanty is going to get the ball a ton. The Raiders have came out and said that they want to get Ashton Jeanty 20 plus touches per game, which means he's going to be getting a lot of carries. And Ashton Jeanty, really fast, really, really good at breaking tackles. We're going to have to make sure that our run defenders are also fast and physical and are ready for a challenge that he produces. Now, the best offensive lineman, Colton Miller, for the Raiders has been down almost the entire year. They just lost the next man up, their second best offensive lineman in Jackson Powers Johnson. He will also not be playing against us for this game. So there are opportunities from an injury perspective. There are some advantages there are some openings we can take advantage of. There are some injuries that we can take advantage of. I don't want to make it sound like I'm celebrating the fact that, they don't have their guys healthy. But the point I'm trying to make is the Raiders have two very, very good offensive linemen. Unfortunately for them, they're not going to be up for this game against us, and we got to make sure that we are ready to hit Ashton Jeanty and make sure that we are making him as uncomfortable as possible, because he is certainly going to be touching the football a ton. Now, moving on to the final point here, effective as a looper in line games with his pass rushing and athletic ability, and he can close on the quarterback in a hurry. So another point praising the athleticism of Demarvion Overshown, which really isn't a surprise. I think we've said it a lot already. He's athletic, but what they're talking about here is looping in line games. I don't know if anyone watching this video saw the clip of Kyle Hamilton intentionally running into an offensive player or into an offensive lineman. And what they do is, it's called a stunt, where one guy will run one way and then another defensive lineman will run around him. And what it is designed to do is the first guy is supposed to take one or more offensive linemen, and he wants to get their attention and wants to get them moving one way so another lineman can loop around and get to the quarterback untouched. So the argument here is that Demarvion Overshown is really good as that looper, as someone who can accelerate in a small window of time and get after the quarterback at a high level. And that's also was shown by his stats, which was 5 sacks in 2024 as a linebacker. This is Demarvion Overshown. I know I've talked about him so much, and I've made probably too many videos about him, but he's going to be such a game changer, man. I'm so excited to get Demarvion Overshown back on a depth chart that is just absolutely filled with injury diagnoses. Logan Wilson is most likely going to take more than one game to get adjusted to this defense, as will Quinnen Williams. Yes, they had the bye week last week, so they had extra time after their trades to get acclimated to what our defense is and what Matt Eberflus is bringing to the table. But these guys, practice isn't the same as the game, so they're going to need real game reps to fully figure out what they are doing as Cowboys. And it's rough. There are a whole lot of injuries, but I'm not going to use that as an excuse. Everyone on defense has to play better, and hopefully this is the start next weekend and we can make a big difference. Very excited to have Demarvion Overshown back, if you couldn't tell. Also, haven't said anything about Siobhan Revel. I really think he's a super underrated player, but that's another guy who relied a lot on his athleticism and then tore his ACL. So both Overshown and Siobhan Revel, both highly athletic players who are going to have their athleticism greatly hampered by their injury. We're going to see how much of them are we going to get game one. But I promise you guys, if they look bad or slow or unathletic, it's going to get better in the future. ACLs take a while to recover from, and these guys are going to be just fine. The defense and the season may not be just fine, but these guys, they're going to recover. They're going to turn back into their old selves. They're going to be highly athletic players, and I can't wait to see it. But if you stuck around this long in the video, I appreciate you taking the time to watch it all the way through. Please hit that like button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and go Cowboys.